All right, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. And yes, specifically as the title says, a dealer purposely sold me a broken watch. He knew it was broken, he tried to screw me, but I'm just kidding. All right. I knew that this watch wasn't running. He told me it wasn't running. He said he has no idea what's wrong with it. And honestly, when a 16014 comes around in like this condition, especially with box and papers, I'm going to snatch it up. I'll figure out what's wrong with it. I'll get it back up and running. As far as I know, he sent it out to his watchmaker. They were going to put a diamond bezel and a diamond dial in it. And unfortunately, they give him a call and say, hey, it's not working anymore. Come pick it up. So I don't know what's wrong with it as of right now. He told me it was running at one point, so we're going to have to dive in a little bit closer. But first and foremost, let's take a look at this watch. Now, this watch is in phenomenal condition. I mean, this case is perfect. This is exactly what I look for when buying 5-digit watches. The lugs, they're thick, they're even. Our case is perfect. The clasp is great. Inside, outside, it looks like it was just refinished, which is the crazy part. So I believe he had this sold maybe to a client, and unfortunately the watchmaker said it doesn't work anymore, so he lost the sale. But we got a phenomenal bracelet on here, and once again, it looks like it was just refinished. I don't even want to touch this thing back up. There's a few minor handling marks, nothing crazy, but overall, this is a very, very clean example of a 16014. We're going to check our functions here. Let's see what's actually wrong with it. So it's winding nice. It's a little bit tight. Our quick set, once again, that's a little bit tight as well. And we're going to check our time. Oh, not too bad. All right, it's flipping out around a minute over 12 o'clock. But obviously our second hand is not running, and that is what's most important. So we're going to go ahead and start breaking this watch down. First thing we do, push in our spring bars. Then we can release the bracelet from the mid case. Now, of course, guys, on your 6 and 12 o'clock side, in between the lugs, you will have both a reference number as well as your serial number. Now, we press in the other side of the spring bar, release the bracelet fully, and now we can start diving into opening up this watch case. My biggest concern is there is something incredibly wrong with this watch. My guy had no idea what was wrong with it before sending it to me. He couldn't even open up the case back, which is crazy. A lot of dealers don't even own the tools to open up a case back. Trust who you're buying from. Let's open this thing up and let's see what's actually wrong with it. And no kidding. All right, this is exactly what I was not expecting. There's actually no balance and there's no pallet fork in this watch. I don't know what the hell happened there. I think that we have the screw for the balance bridge. That's very, very weird. Now, he told me his watchmaker went through the watch, but I mean, there's fingerprints all over. I mean, there's just residue everywhere. So I don't know what he did, but let's start breaking this thing down. We're going to release the crown, press on the detent. Crown looks to be okay. It's a little bit dirty. We're going to clean all this stuff up. Now I'm going to start breaking down this movement. While it's still in the case, I like to remove the automatic module. As you guys always see me use different types of movement holders. This automatic module, and especially this rotor, you don't want to go ahead and secure this movement. Otherwise, you can actually bend the rotor. But this also gives me a chance to look underneath this watch, look at the automatic module, look at the reversing wheels. Everything seems to be there. Everything seems to be good, but we'll double check it under the microscope. Now we can go ahead, move this movement around, and then actually release it from the mid case. Now you want to make sure that that screw is lined up with the tube. There's a little channel there, and that allows this movement to become free. Now our dial looks nice. Hands need a little bit of cleaning, but overall, I'm pretty happy so far. I don't see anything too out of the ordinary other than a missing balance and pallet fork. But continuing with this disassembly, we're going to protect the dial and then go ahead and remove these hands. You want to press lightly. You want to make sure that they pop up straight. You don't want to bang it to the left or the right. Your hands will come free. Now we can go ahead and release the dial from the screws, pull the dial off, and now we can remove the date disc. Now, this is a regular piece of Rodico I use for disassembly. Push back on that date jumper. This will allow you to get it free, and then you can grab it with some wooden tweezers. But as I look closer at this movement, I'm starting to realize there's a mixture of over-oiling and no oil. I wish you guys could see it a little bit more clear, but I mean, there's some spots here where the oil is just so caked on, it's causing friction in the movement. Now, another crazy thing, there's no pallet fork in this watch. This train of wheels should be moving freely. So I'm very curious as to why it's not. But we're going to go ahead, release the power from this movement, pull back on the click, and then we can actually unwind the mainspring. Always want to do this. I mean, there's no pallet fork in here, but for some reason, the train wheels are just not moving. So here's exactly what I'm talking about. So we have our skate wheel, the third wheel, the great wheel, and obviously our seconds wheel. Now, this cap jewel, I was trying to remove it, and it is stuck in there. Yes, the absorber is pulled up, but for some reason, this cap jewel just will not come out. So we'll deal with that later once the bridge is off. I think I'm going to have to push it out with a pin. We're going to start removing all of the bridges. First one is going to be the pallet fork bridge. And once again, I don't see anything wrong there. Now we can go over to the train of wheels bridge, remove both of the screws, and then we could finally release the bridge. Now, while I have this flipped around, I'm going to double check, make sure that there's nothing wrong. I don't see anything wrong, but once again, microscope is your best friend. That'll allow me to check for cracked jewels or anything else out of the ordinary. So now we can go ahead and start removing the train wheels. Skate wheel, third wheel. Now, which is weird, this second wheel was not coming out. All right, and I couldn't understand why. So grab the piece of Rodico, and did anybody catch that? Because I didn't catch it at first, up until I cleaned these parts, and then I took them out to inspect again, and then I realized. You guys will see that in a second. So now we're removing the ratchet wheel screw, remove the ratchet wheel itself. Now we're going over, removing that nut. Remember, it is reverse threaded. The crown wheel and crown wheel core comes out, our wigwam pinion, and the bridge. Now, once again, I already removed all the winding bridge screws, so we're just going to get all this stuff out. Everything is stuck together. There's so much over oiling in this movement that I'm surprised it actually ran. But now we're removing the winding bridge, then we can go ahead and remove our barrel. And then from there, we flip the movement around and we start working topside. Very dirty in here. Now, as everything starts coming off, you start seeing someone's work. All right. And this is what I always say, guys. There's people that could work on watches. Absolutely. I don't think it's a hard thing to do. And it's just one of those things. If it's not done right, your watch will never work. I mean, take a look at this. Why isn't this piece coming apart here? Any ideas? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's the monsoon of oil that this guy put on the jumper for the setting lever. I mean, there's just so much oil here. There should be no oil on this. It's a moving part. When you have oil, or realistically any oil, it creates friction. Then things become tighter, tighter to wind, tighter tolerances. There should be no oil here at all. It's crazy to me. That date corrector should have popped right off. However, we could continue on with this disassembly. So we're going to go ahead and remove the spring for the setting lever. Then we could go ahead and start removing everything else. Now, I want to turn my attention over to the date wheel mounted. Everything over here is extremely dirty. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove this nut. Now we can go ahead and remove the date wheel mounted, and that jewel popped right off. Once again, absolutely painted in oil. Now, a little dab on the yoke is okay. That jewel will stay in place. We don't want that flying out of the way. But we're going to remove the yoke for the cam here. And once again, there's oil everywhere. At this point, it seems to be a very common theme, which is fine. We're going to take care of this. So now we can go ahead and remove the spring for the yoke, get the yoke out of the way, and now we could turn our attention over to this monstrosity. Once again, too much oil. You guys are going to hear me say it a million times before this thing's done. Setting lever detent now comes out, and then we can go ahead and remove the spring for the balance stop. Once this is out of the way, we're pretty much done up here. We got to remove our cannon pinion, release the crown, and that's pretty much it. This whole watch is disassembled, but I want to check out this barrel. Now, once again, my friend said that, hey, my watchmaker went through it. He did a little service on it, whatever. And this is honestly the problem, okay? Nobody went through this watch. If somebody did go through this watch, they should never touch a watch again. Once again, you look at this barrel, look at the cap. I mean, it's filthy. It's disgusting. And this is the problem in this industry. Once again, you guys are buying a watch online. You have no idea what the hell is actually inside of it. Now, anybody can tell you, yeah, this watch is perfect. It was just serviced. And honestly, who would know? Who would have any idea unless you're digging into it this deep? A lot of these dealers just say, yeah, my guy went through it. Everything's good. He said everything's great. It's running perfect. How do you know? You really need proof. And this is kind of a concept I'm trying to introduce into the secondary market, because a lot of people just don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're selling and they're misrepresenting stuff. I mean, this is disgusting. The amount of oil and sludge just built up. I'm going through here with a piece of pithwood and I'm going to clean every single part. Now, this is the seconds wheel. I said, did you guys catch it before? He bent the hell out of the pivot on it. That's why the hands were colliding. But once again, we're going through every single jewel in this watch. Now, I'm dipping it in cleaner in one dip and then going into each and every pivot. Now, we can go ahead, we could scrape away all this glue residue, all this over oiling. And don't worry, if you feel like, oh no, wood's going to end up in your cleaning machine. No, I will clean this off with the brush. I just want to make sure that all the heavy contaminants are off this main plate before I throw it in the cleaning machine. And that's another point, all right? A lot of people think that I take these things apart, don't clean them, don't re-oil them. I'm not filming this whole process, but this is step one. It's clean. Look at the shine on this barrel wall. So we're going to take some braking grease and paint the inner wall of this barrel. Now, my OCD kind of kicks in at this point. I was always taught it needs to be perfect, and that's really how I try and do stuff. So now we can put in our new mainspring color side up, use the acrylic tool, and make sure that this mainspring is fully seated inside of the barrel. You want to make sure it's all the way out before releasing that cover, otherwise this thing could pop out and fly away. So now we can remove this, and beautiful. Now, opening up this little capsule, this is where I put all of my cap jewels, the pallet fork, skate wheel. There's a few new pieces I had to buy, which is fine. I mean, it's better for whoever buys this watch. You're getting a bunch of little brand new goodies. But this is how you want to save this stuff. You don't want to put it in with the main parts, otherwise you can cause damage. Now, once I have everything out of this little capsule, I like to organize it. I like to make sure that we have the same number of cap jewels and parts that went in and parts coming out. It's very important because, believe it or not, these things fly around and you could actually lose a cap jewel. It could be sitting in the bottom of the liquid. You have no idea until you go to put this thing back together. Now, a brand new balance bridge and a brand new balance wheel were fitted, and this watch is running great. Now, we had our bent seconds wheel, so of course, brand new in blister pack, a new seconds wheel. This watch will start going back together. So we have our minute pinion bridge going in, and once again, we put our screws in, tighten this all down. I feel like this is very repetitive. People always ask, how do I know where things go? Rolexes are like Legos, one of my favorite watches to work on. We're reinstalling our barrel. Then we can go ahead and put our great wheel back in. Make sure that's sitting in the correct pivot. New seconds wheel. Once again, you want to emblem the end of this. Now, I like to use a little dab, a small dab of 9010. You have to remember, this pivot is sitting on top of a jewel. So a little bit of 9010 goes a long way. Emblem allows the oil not to creep up and actually touch the seconds hand. So we're going to slide that back in. Perfect. Now, the third wheel goes in. Once again, make sure it's sitting in the correct pivot, and then we could put in the escape wheel. Now, the old escape wheel, I wasn't a fan of. The teeth, I don't know. Maybe someone messed with it. Maybe too many tweezer pulls. But it was a little bit scratched up. I didn't like the integrity of it, so I put in a brand new one. Might as well. We're already this far into it. And I'll break down the entire cost of this restoration a little bit later on. But now we have our winding bridge on. Screws could go down. And once again, tighten everything down. Always check free spin. Now, you guys hear me say free spin all the time. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, I'm going to move this barrel here, and as you guys can see, the train of wheels is now engaging. It's now moving freely, and you want to make sure that it's doing this before tightening down this bridge. Otherwise, you run the risk of snapping a pivot off the escape wheel, third wheel, whatever. But everything's moving nicely, so now we can move our way over to the winding bridge. Press that down. Then we could go ahead and install the ratchet wheel. Now, the click, I already cleaned it. I already put that back together. I always do that off of the watch. Putting back down our ratchet wheel screw, and then we could tighten this down. Now, as we tighten it, you'll see the engagement of all the wheels. Everything's still running freely. We're great. We can move on to the next step. Now, I flipped this movement back over. I like to have the crown already in at this point. Why? Specifically because I'm going to let this balance run with pretty much no lubrication. So I want to have the opportunity to be able to stop it. So you need to make sure that you have all your keyless works items in. Spring for the balance stop. We'll push that right back in. Good. Now our setting lever detent can come down. Now a lot of these parts should have 9504, which is that blue grease that you guys see me use. Everything's engaging here, so that's a good sign. Now we can go ahead and put back down the spring for the setting lever. This is finicky. All right, but once we have this all tightened down, double check, everything seems to be engaging, so we're good. Once again, this blue grease that I'm talking about. You want to have a nice film on it. Now we could go ahead and insert the yoke for the sliding pinion. Beautiful. Now we could go ahead and put the spring for the yoke. This is what keeps tension on the actual yoke itself and allows you to have that nice tactile feel as you pull the crown in and out through all the positions. I put a little dab of 9010 on here. You'll actually see it get sucked right up, and that basically just keeps a light lubrication on these parts. Once again, that's metal to metal, so we want to make sure that everything's lubricated. Now we can go ahead and put our wheels on, our minute wheel, and now we can put on the jumper for the setting lever. This is the mounted variant. So now we go ahead and throw our screws back in. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. Screws always have to go back in, guys, all right? But I just have to say it so that people don't think I didn't do it. Before we tighten this down fully, you want to make sure that this is fully engaged. Go ahead, lightly press on that lever, and it will catch with the setting lever detent. So beautiful, everything's engaging. We ran through our 3 notches. Now we can flip this movement back to the bottom side, put on our washer, our crown wheel, as well as the crown wheel core. Now, once again, little dab of oil in between this channel here before putting back down this nut. This is reverse threaded, so make sure that that's good. I see that the crown is turning. So now we can double check and test, and beautiful. Everything seems to be engaging here. Obviously the ratchet wheel won't go without the wig-wag pinion. I don't know who comes up with these names, but I guess it kind of makes sense because it's wig and wag. I don't know, moves around in this channel here, and that's what allows you to engage the winding as well as pretty much every other complication within this watch. So this is now good, bridge is down, and everything is engaging. Now we have free spin once again, and everything is working. We're transferring power from the mainspring all the way down to this pallet fork. So beautiful, the pallet fork is engaging. Once again, bridge goes down, screws get tightened, and now we can reinsert our new balance and balance bridge. Push that right into place, give it a little shake, and look at that. This movement now is back to life. Now, I'm going to make an assumption whoever worked on this watch last, they tried to do a mini service, regulate it, and they probably ruined the balance. And they told my guy, hey, the watch isn't running, all right? But we got it all back together. It seems to be running perfect, like right out of the box. This is no lubrication whatsoever. Now, before you get crazy, yes, I let the movement run for a few minutes with no lubrication. Why? I need my pallet stones to get cuts in them. What do I mean by that? I emblem the pallet stones, we let it run for a few seconds, it engages with the escape wheel, cuts a nice channel, and then we can go ahead and re-lubricate everything. But now everything topside is pretty much done. We're reinserting our date wheel. I like to do it, basically you get it under those 2 heads on the opposite side, pull back on the lever, and then lightly press the date wheel in. It'll fall right into place, and then once again, we could check everything. Now our quick set works once again. Nice, smooth operation. Clicks right over, and now we can go ahead, turn it around 24 hours, and make sure that our date wheel is once again flipping over. So the 18th now, we're getting closer to that 24-hour mark, and then we should see this date wheel flip over. Now at this point, it's also good. We're seeing everything else engage, and we're getting close, and hold on, give it a second. One more second. One more second. Damn, how long is this? What the hell? Oh, all right, there we go. All right, so our 24-hour date wheel mounted is moving. So now we can go ahead, slap our dial back on, and check on the time grapher. Now, this is with everything lubricated. I don't think I had it fully wound once again, but this is steadily over a 2-minute period. I like to let it stabilize, and we're seeing perfect numbers. Zeros across the board, great amplitude, and it's consistent. It's holding on every single position, and our rate and second per day is not changing much. So we're pretty much on point there. Now I feel comfortable. I'm going to slap our hands back on after I clean them up a little bit. Checking all the functions once again, our 12 o'clock being one of the most important. And all right, we're like right there. That might be like 30 seconds over the 12 o'clock portion, but that is pretty much on point. Now we're going to let this thing run for a few minutes, make sure that we have no other issues, re-time graph it before I slap it in the case. But this thing is done. Can't forget one of the most important things on a watch. This is the automatic module. Did anybody catch that? Or no? I just want to see if anyone is paying attention in these videos. Obviously, I put this reversing wheel in upside down. So we're going to flip this back around, and then once they're both sitting in their respective pivots, everything's lined up, we can go ahead and put our cover back on. This has a little post, well, 2 posts, and we want to make sure that everything is installed correctly. You should see all of the pivots through each and every jewel, and then we can put our screws back down. Now, this is a brand new rotor axle. I just replaced it. I don't know why. Didn't really need it. HP 1300, and then we could go ahead and slap this back down. Now, new C-clip, new rotor gear, and now this thing's ready to be cased back up. Blow out the crystal, blow out the dial, and now this thing's back in the case. Our movement screws are tightened down, and we're checking our automatic module. This is one of the most important things, honestly. You want to make sure that this rotor is spinning around freely. It's not getting stuck. This is what winds your watch. As you're walking around throughout the day, as you move your wrist around, this is what you want. You want to see that rotor moving around freely. Double checking our winding is engaging. Everything's good. Our reversing wheels are reversing. They're moving forward, left, right, whatever. This thing is winding on its own. That's what's the most important. Now, the watch is done. Now with this watch all put back together, fully serviced, and running phenomenally, we can admire our work. This is one of my favorite references, and unfortunately, guys, I want to give a big shout out to Evan. Evan saw this watch in the previous video, and he reached right out and purchased it. So, unfortunately, this watch is not for sale. However, Evan, I hope you enjoy it for many, many years. You have a pretty serious 5-digit collection starting, so hopefully this is a great addition to that. I mean, it's just a phenomenal looking watch. The steel, high polished, fluted bezel, silver stick dial, you just can't go wrong. And this is exactly what I try and showcase to you guys. Condition does mean everything. It really, really does. Especially watches like this that are getting up in age, 20 plus years old. Finding them in this condition is very, very hard. Especially with non-rebuilt bands that are like this. I mean, they're showing minimal stretch. The case lugs, I always say this, they're thick, they're even. I mean, I just have no complaints with this watch. Now, everyone's going to be curious, what did this cost me? So I'm going to give you guys a cost breakdown right now. So the watch itself cost me $3,800 plus shipping. Balance wheel, brand new, $500. Brand new balance bridge, $150. Odds and ends, little various gears, clips, and wheels, $100. Now, I'm not including my time or my labor, so technically I'm in this watch for around $4,600. Evan bought this watch for $5,250, leaving me with a profit of roughly $700. I think he got a phenomenal deal on this piece. Let me know what you guys think. But for now, that's going to be the end of this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram if you're looking to buy, sell, trade, do any of those wonderful things. Check out the website. Give me a call. Shoot me a text. And don't forget, follow me on Instagram. All the steals, all the deals get posted there first. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.